My name is Sarah Atkinson, and this is the story of my iPod. You may recognize the silhouette of this woman dancing with her iPod because it was Apple's major marketing image all over the world from 2001 to about 2008. To be honest, although I like to think that ads and commercials don't often persuade me to buy a product, I will admit that this one definitely did. So, in 2004, I got my first iPod. It was a pink iPod mini with 4 gigabytes of storage. And I thought it was super cool for having it, even though I was probably 3 years behind. I used this iPod endlessly until it broke in 2007 due to a faulty battery. Then in 2007, for Christmas, I got the 5th generation iPod Classic, also known as the iPod Video, which was white and had 30 gigabytes of space. Just last year, after my iPod Classic was left at the gym, which was my own fault, I received my 3rd iPod in less than 7 years, a 32 gigabyte black iPod Touch. Now, after looking at my own history with iPods, I thought it'd be interesting to look at the history of Apple's iPod production. Production of iPods began in 2001, and it took only 2 years for Apple to sell 1 million iPods. In 2007, Apple introduced the iPhone, which, as we all know, has music, internet, apps, games, weather, etc. And before doing research, I, kind of assumed that the iPhone took a lot of money away from iPods because, they can do so much more. But when I looked at the numbers, I realized that iPods were hardly affected by the iPhone and continued to sell very well. And in 2010, the iPod Touch was named the world's #1 portable game player. So, to begin my research, I realized that it was important to look at the story of my iPod from a big picture view, so I knew where I was going. So here's a map of Apple's environmental footprint according to their comprehensive report for 2011. As you can see from this map, manufacturing is 46% of their total environmental footprint, and they're counting manufacturing to include extraction of materials and product assembly. So to get a full understanding of my iPod, I first took my research to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Here is where most of the mining of metals and other raw materials for iPods and other electronics such as coltan occurs. So I found this very interesting video called Phone Story that I would like to show you because it describes the extraction process, and is also kind of interesting because it was actually a game, and it was on the App Store for 4 days, I believe, in 2011, before Apple realized what exactly it was. And when they did realize, they banned it, and you will, in a second, see why.
Hello, consumer. Thank you for joining us. Let me tell you the story of this phone while I provide you with quality entertainment. Once upon a time, there were minerals resting in the bowels of the earth. One of these minerals, called coltan, is found in most electronic devices. The majority of coltan's world supply is located in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, a country torn by a brutal civil war. The increasing demand of coltan produced a wave of violence and massacres in the Congo. Military groups enslaved prisoners of war, often children, to mine the precious material. Directly or not, we are all involved in this complex, illegal traffic. Like most electronic gadgets, this phone was assembled in
Okay,
China, inside a factory.
so now let's go back. Um, so as it started to go on, the video starts to tell you about the conditions in manufacturing companies, and specifically Foxconn Electronics manufacturing plants in China. Foxconn is the largest electronics manufacturer in the world and the main manufacturer of iPods, as well as other Apple products. Foxconn is a Taiwan-registered corporation with factories in China, Europe, India, Mexico, and Brazil. Foxconn's first and largest manufacturing plant is in Shenzhen, China, and employs over 400,000 workers in what is known as Foxconn City or iPod City. Other big companies that work with Foxconn include Barnes & Noble, Nintendo, HP, Microsoft, Dell, and a number of others. Like the company that we saw in China Blue, Foxconn is known for long work hours, little pay, bad working conditions, and subpar living facilities. These issues have caused a lot of suicides at the plants, and as you can see from the image, or in the video, this is an image of the video, the game in this part has you moving this net to try to save the people who are jumping. And I have another video for you that talks about the backlash of protesters over these suicides. And this is awesome. Sorry. Okay, well, while this happens, oh, no, I think we got it.
They may be riding a wave of iPad infatuation in Britain, but Apple are facing a backlash from workers at one of its suppliers in China. Demonstrators have been protesting in Hong Kong, accusing the computer company and its supplier Foxconn of poor corporate ethics.
No blood in our computers! No blood in our computers!
The anger comes after a spate of suicides by workers at Foxconn factories. Along with 3 failed attempts, 11 employees have killed themselves this year, with workers mainly jumping from buildings. The activists accused the Apple contractor of overworking their staff. One protester called upon the iPhone giant to do a better job of monitoring labour standards at its suppliers.
And so what we want to do today is to let all the consumers who are buying Apple products know what is really behind the production of Apple computers.
Apple CEO Steve Jobs has called the suicides very troubling and has claimed that the Californian company are all over the situation. Foxconn have responded by announcing pay rises and hiring more counsellors for its staff. The world's largest contract maker of electronics also planned to install safety nets at its factories.
Okay. So back to the thing. So as it said, Foxconn put in safety nets, but before Apple started pressuring them, they didn't do anything to, get to the root of the problem. Okay, so here is Apple's Supplier Responsibility 2011 Progress Report. This is just one page of over 35 pages of reports on different factories' compliance as well as disciplinary actions after audits. In 2011, Apple conducted audits on 127 facilities and claimed that they have seen continued performance improvements and better working conditions. So after these products are assembled, they are sent all over the world to be bought by millions of consumers each year, which moves us on to product use. Since 2001, over 22 different models of iPods have been put on the market. And I have bought 3 of those models, and my family has probably altogether bought maybe 10. Apple's constant innovations, led by Steve Jobs, has increased their bottom line and brought much attention to the company, but has only increased America's and the world's consumerism and, our need for the next big thing. Even in Nepal, which I visited last summer, almost everyone had iPhones, and I will admit that it felt a little ironic that they were using a product designed in my home state of California, but manufactured much closer to them in China. So to be fair, Steve Jobs' innovations have also made Apple and Apple products much more environmentally friendly. For example, Apple products are now the most efficient electronics you can buy, not just meeting but surpassing Energy Star standards for efficiency. And here's a graph comparing the amount of CO2 produced by Apple products in comparison to a 60-watt incandescent light bulb. And the 60 watt is on the left-hand side, and the rest are, as you can see. So product use, despite these, reductions in the amount of energy used, still accounts for 45% of Apple's total environmental footprint. So, how is Apple closing the circle? Well, Apple has reduced product and packaging materials, created longer lasting and more efficient batteries, and will now even give you 10% off a new iPod when you bring in your old one to the store to be recycled. Also, if you send in an old iPod or other Apple product that still has monetary value, Apple will send you a gift card to the Apple Store. And if it has no monetary value, they will just recycle it for you and do it in the most, environmental friendly way as they can. So according to a comprehensive report, all e-waste collected by Apple is processed in the region in which it was collected, meaning that nothing is shipped overseas for recycling or disposal. However, that is only if the products are given back to the company. Otherwise, e-waste is sent to China, Ghana, or Pakistan, where electronics are broken down by the locals and resold to manufacturers. Unfortunately, these electronics often enter air or water and cause health problems to the locals who rely on this e-waste supply for income. So Apple recognized a few years ago this issue. They understood that products weren't always being returned to them, and so they have reduced toxic materials by taking out lead, brominated flame retardants, which are BFRs, phthalates, and polyvinyl chloride, PVC, mercury, and arsenic, all toxic substances that lead to environmental and health issues. So, how green is Apple? In comparison to other electronics companies, Apple has been named the most environmentally friendly. Now, though that is not saying much, it does say something. The more green consumers push Apple to be, the more companies will follow in their footsteps to try to compete with them. When I use my iPod now, it's kind of bittersweet. I love my iPod and its ability to surf the web, listen to music, play games, do whatever I really want to do. But now that I know this story, it's really hard to look at it the same. On the other hand, its efficiency and lack or reduction of harmful toxins impresses me, but still doesn't really outweigh the downsides. However, In doing this presentation on a Mac and knowing the quality of Apple products over other brands such as Dell, I will continue to support Apple because of their determination and increasing dedication to sustainability. As always, Apple still has a lot to do to continue their to reduce their environmental footprint. So to end, I found this great quote by Steve Jobs. It says, "Sometimes when you innovate, you make mistakes. It is best to admit them quickly and get on with improving your other innovations." So I think that's a great way to sum it up. You can always innovate, you can always improve. It's just what you decide to improve on that really counts in the end. So thank you, and that is the end of my project.